Greetings from Johannesburg, South Africa, to the World Protected Areas Leaders Forum in Finland. I'm sorry that I can't be with you due to other commitments, but I'm looking forward to sharing high-level thoughts on the important role that sustainable finance has to play for our protected and conserved areas at local levels, national levels, regional levels, and of course, globally. My name is Candice, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Sustainable Finance Coalition and co-chair of the IUCN World Commission on Protected Areas Sustainable Finance Specialist Group. I'm passionate about the role that finance has to play for nature and its custodians, and importantly, ensuring that we develop finance solutions at their point of impact that increase flows of finance from a wide range of instruments, mechanisms, and finance solutions become available to our protected and conserved areas and their stakeholders and actors on the ground. Doing this is no small feat, and I want to unpack some important aspects of the approach we need to take in order to tailor-make finance solutions for their point of impact. Now, protected and conserved areas, and I know that this is an audience that understands the wealth and importance of PCAs around the world, provide critical benefits both for people as well as for economies, and are the bastions of biodiversity in numerous different parts of the world. But in order for protected and conserved areas to really fulfill their mandate and to be as effective as possible, which is really what Target 3 and the Global 30 by 30 ambition is about, not just about increasing the amount of protected and conserved areas, but ensuring that they're effectively managed over the long term. We know that conservation is a long-term game, and in order to ensure that this is something that can be affected with the greatest amount of impact on the ground, we need to ensure that our flows of finance are resilient, that they're sustainable, and they're not reliant on any individual or one source of finance or source of income. And there's some key principles I'd like to unpack around this. For protected and conserved areas to be as effective and provide those cross-cutting benefits, we need to ensure that our flows of finance are stable, that they're secure, and that they're developed over the long term, not just based on short-term funding cycles, which we've been heavily reliant on in the conservation sector for a long time, but importantly, that we have a range of different instruments and mechanisms, solutions at our disposal that allow finance to come in from a range of different sources, particularly an increased role of the private sector to finance conservation on the ground, as well as an increase in public funding and the importance that governments play in supporting their protected and conserved areas nationally. And then we need to be able to be innovative and push the boundaries and the horizons of what finance for nature looks like. But how do we actually begin to do this? What is the approach we need to take in order to tailor-make finance solutions and ensure that they're targeted at their point of impact? We currently sit with a finance for nature gap globally that is $700 billion short. That's a very big figure and a very broad estimate, but it does show us the size of the task set before us when it comes to sustainably financing nature, particularly when it comes to important places for biodiversity like protected and conserved areas. In order to plug this gap, we need to ensure that we're not chasing after any green finance unicorn. That's not a technical term, but it's something that I like to stress when engaging with partners across the world, that we want to ensure that the finance solutions we determine are really the most viable for the specific context within which we're working. Whether it's a government agency responsible for a national protected area state, whether it's a local community protecting through OECMs, or whatever the mechanism or organization is, we want to ensure that we find the right finance solutions for the right place with the right people and the right partners. There are some rather alarming studies coming out globally from different parts of the world indicating that even the available finance we have for nature, less than 10% is actually reaching the ground where it needs to go. And so more importantly than ensuring that we increase the amount of finance is also how we utilize that finance to ensure that it is managed and deployed correctly with as much efficiency as possible. But at the same time, we also want to be able to ensure that finance reaches custodians of nature on the ground. We know that Indigenous peoples and local communities hold some of the most critically important areas in the world for biodiversity and have a wealth of Indigenous knowledge and practice that needs to be supported with tailor-made finance solutions. So finding the right finance solution, designing it in a strategic and effective manner, and mobilizing as many different partners, expertise, and organizations as possible to be able to galvanize these new flows of finance is really what the Sustainable Finance Coalition is all about in Africa. We do this across sectors, across countries, with a multitude of organizations, communities, and individuals, and we do it through a tailor-made finance model. That finance model allows us to start at the very first step to find the right finance solutions, how to identify those solutions that are very viable and particular and targeted for the individual context, whether it's an individual protected area or a collection of protected and conserved areas working in conjunction with one another. We do this with a find assessment criteria and 3 basic tools that whittle down a very long list of finance mechanisms into those that are the most appropriate for the context. Once we know we're onto a good thing and have identified the right finance solutions for the right place, we plug it into the design part of the model to incubate over a 6-month period and determine what the building blocks or critical success factors are of each finance solution, and then begin to implement that with an effective and strategic implementation pathway. By ensuring that we find the right finance solutions, that we incubate them and break them down into their critical ingredients, their building blocks, and then begin to implement them, whether it's through a pilot project or a design of a specific financial instrument, it gives us the greatest chance of success in getting those finance solutions across the line, reaching the point of impact when tangible flows of finance start to reach the people and places that really need it the most. We're seeing a huge amount of success on the African continent. We've shared a number of different resources with the Leaders Forum for everybody to dive into the inventory of finance solutions that are available and to be able to see some of the tailor-made solutions for protected areas. An example are the tax incentives in South Africa, which were designed for privately and community-owned protected areas, national parks and nature reserves. The tax incentive has currently released around $75 million in new finance for South Africa's protected areas and to ensure that they have long-term management and long-term effectiveness. The realm of finance solutions is really an incredibly wide horizon. We can innovate and push the boundary with regards to bonds, biodiversity credits, and many other instruments coming down the line. But ensuring that we find those right solutions and design them effectively is really the point that I'd like to emphasize. In order to find those right finance solutions, there are a wealth of resources. This is something that the Sustainable Finance Specialist Group under the World Commission of Protected Areas is really supporting stakeholders around the world to do. We're currently busy with the revision of the best practice or good practice guidelines for sustainably financing PCAs, which will be available towards the end of the year. And it's an incredible resource for leaders to be able to access and look into a realm of different financial solutions, different key approaches that are available from numerous different experts, organizations around the world. So I'd really like to invite the Leaders Forum to engage in the material that's being provided from the finance model to the growing inventory of finance solutions, as well as the wealth of global resources available through the specialist group. I wish you well in your deliberations in Finland. and really would like to invite the leaders at this forum to be able to dive into the emerging world of sustainable finance, as it provides us with a key to unlock the doors to financial opportunity that are going to ensure that our protected and conserved areas are effectively managed into the long term.